What's up, everybody? Today we are just gonna go over my favorite dragons in Gruul colors and kind of rank them on like how they do well in my particular decks that I play. What you could do with Gruul Dragons, I mean, it would be kind of tough to play, for instance, as a commander like Dragon Lord Atarka. That would be kind of difficult because it's a high mana value commander, and it could sit in the command zone for a while. So sometimes those large mana commanders, maybe they're not as ideal as some other ones. Like the ones that I've had kind of success for, and I can foresee having success for, is first of all, of course, Meria, the Scholar of Antiquity, just like putting out tons of mana in a quick manner and really putting out those high value creatures or spells. Additionally, like a Ruby Daring Tracker could do that, could also accomplish that pretty well. Basically having like an Arcane Signet in your command zone, deriving all that value of basically getting a good attacker on the battlefield as well. And then I was also thinking Rada could be good as well, the one that has landfall. That would be an interesting one to kind of investigate, where you're basically utilizing like that landfall aspect of where you could basically play lands from the top of your library, get those exploration effects, Azusa effects, Legion of the Grove. Those ones just seem to be like good fits for that kind of commander and could power that mana that's necessary for these creatures. I would overall say that dragons, I think, mostly are a tall tribe, kind of like Eldrazi. I feel like they're a little bit different than Eldrazi because I think they can derive value from attack triggers. I mean, they don't have an annihilator, so to speak, but I suppose really the primary difference between Eldrazi is that usually you have to cast Eldrazi, right, to get their very strong effects. Like an Ulamog, for instance, you must cast it to exile the 2 permanents. A lot of those other ones, like Emrakul, you must cast the spell. Whereas the Dragon Tribe, they're really not restricted by that criteria. A lot of their verbiage is can basically be summarized as like enter the battlefield triggers and attack triggers. So, for instance, like a Tyrant's Familiar, as long as you control your commander, Tyrant's Familiar gets 2/2, and has whenever Tyrant's Familiar attacks, it deals 7 damage to target creature defending player controls. So you can see it has that very strong attack trigger. A lot of these dragons have that in their components. Some also do have enter the battlefield characteristics too, like a Dragon Lord Atarka, where when it enters the battlefield, just deals 5 damage divided amongst some targets. Very powerful effect. So all in all, basically I was gonna kind of just provide my kind of rankings of where I feel like these dragons sit, and I have a whole bunch of them here. So let's just get into it. I put these beautiful cards up at the top because I feel like these are just really primary components for our Gruul list, especially my Meria list, where I derive value from tapping these for mana as well. I think the Goblin Anarchomancer is just a really good fit for any of your decks that have those Gruul colors. So this particular card, any spell that you cast that's red or green costs one less to cast. So that's just a very good kind of passive ability that you just kind of accrue a lot of value off of all these different red and green spells, that they're just cheaper. Really good effect. Really kind of accelerates you. Additionally, these medallions are just beautiful too. So, your green spells cost 1 less to play, your red spells cost one less to play. These are just reintroduced in Modern Horizons 3, and it's just wreaking havoc, right? These red storm lists with Ruby Medallion are just nasty. So, there is that. Now, to my rankings, and I kind of put these 3 here just because I feel like these are my absolute favorites, and I feel like they're so strong. And I just wanted to kind of share these. I would probably put these as my tops, my tops. So a Tyrant's Familiar is one of those cards that you can really steal some wins, even in a more competitive pod, because you can get this out fast and then really isolate opponents and their commanders, and you should basically remove that commander from the game. This thing can keep swinging in. If they recast that commander, you're just keeping dealing 7 damage to it, and unless they have some sort of form of protection, you're just basically a commander beacon to just, you know, kind of let loose on it. And I've had it happen to me, and the first time it happened to me, I was like, God dang, that creature is good. And it's done the same thing, like all the games I play in it. The fact that it does 7 in the air and then it has flying and haste, like it just enables itself. Really, the criteria to have a commander, like a cheap commander like Meria that's only 3 mana, and we can protect it like with commander played and the various modes of hasty artifacts that grant protection as well. We can protect it and make sure this thing come down and is like weaponized, so nothing escapes its gaze or its breath. Delicious. So we also have the Balefire Dragon here, and this one really kind of surprised me. Like, I think I gave it a go like maybe once or twice, and I was like, you know, I was kind of indifferent to it. And but I kept playing it, and I was like, dang, this card is whacked. Like, I don't know what happened those first couple games, but maybe I just wasn't like giving it enough support. But it really doesn't need a great deal. I mean, sometimes it can get removed and just kind of stick, right? Which is probably the worst result of it. But you know, once this thing swings and gets through, it's just like, it's kind of over for the opponent's stuff, right? It's just going to do like 6 damage to all their creatures based on its power, how much damage it is dealt. So it's really nasty guy. So, and it's a 6/6, so it's just a massive, crazy dragon, right? Additionally, this card has really like found its way in my heart. Like, I've played it a couple times, and it's just like, people are just surprised of like its ability to generate so much mana, you know, and it can just kind of snowball into like really big like spells, like your Last March of the Ents and your Tooth and Nail spells, or maybe even more dragons. So I really enjoy the Savage Vent Maw. It's just amazing how much mana it produces when it attacks, and we don't lose that mana as the phases end. So you can still utilize that mana after the attack phase, which is amazing. So these are just like, I think these are just right up there in my list. And I have my other dragons here that I would also consider just toe in toe with these as well. There's a ton of support for this tribe. Additionally, like a card like Cloth. I had done a video about this, like kind of like I really got interested in YouTube after I made this particular video, because I had a lot of reception about, you know, Gruul Dragons, and this is my thing. I like to revisit it, and also I just appreciate all the new viewers and the ones that keep coming back. I just kind of looked at my analytics, and it was really special. Like, I have a lot of people returning to come back, so thanks for that. Additionally, Cloth is one of those creatures that it's just basically going to replace itself pretty fast, right? It's going to come down, you're going to have some attackers, and then you're just generating that mana to play additional spells. Something about Cloth that should be noted is that you will not be able to like sync into abilities. So for instance, like a Hellkite Charger, you wouldn't be able to sync into that that ability with the Cloth's ability, because it only works for spells. So that is obviously, if it could do that, it would just be like an additional Savage Vent Maw. And I'll get to the Savage Vent Maw combo too. I'll just kind of keep that one to the side. But Cloth is just kind of really amazing, right? All right. Additionally, Old Gnawbone. And the thing about these dragons too, I'd say, what makes them amazing is they don't need a lot of support. They kind of just do the things that they do just by you playing the game, really. You know, you have creatures on the battlefield that deal damage. You're making treasures. It just has to be alive. You know, it doesn't have to be swinging or attacking. It just comes on the battlefield, similar to kind of an enter the battlefield trigger. For instance, for Old Gnawbone, like there's that window between your combat where opponent can interact with it. But if it can emit to there and you're dealing combat damage, it's basically like an enter the battlefield trigger. And you can make an abundance of treasure like immediately from this, right? Depending on how much damage you're dealing in combat damage to a player. You'll create that many treasure tokens, deal 7 damage to an opponent total, make 7 treasures. So there you go. And that treasure, of course, counts for 1 mana, so very strong. Additionally, Chiscoria is just one of those other creatures that really shore up your value and keep your train going, because when you're playing like a tribe with the cards don't exactly have a ton of card draw value in them. They're very like damage orientated. This card kind of serves as a bridge, right? Where it attacks and then you exile top 5 of your card library, and then based on your the amount of artifacts, basically the artifact that you pick from the top 5, if you hit one, has affinity for artifacts. So that's kind of an amazing ability, so you can kind of get some nice casts off of that as well. Additionally, we have the Dragonborn Champion. That would be kind of one of those rarer dragon cards that will grant card advantage. So this thing's amazing, right? Where every time a source of your that you control deals damage at all, 5 damage or more to a player at a time, you draw a card. So, I mean, lots of our dragons can do this, and it enables itself too. So, another really nice way to get into cards for us. Terror of the Peaks is a win con in itself. What an amazing card Terror of the Peaks is. You know, I've seen it done with Scoot Swarm before. You know, it can go off in that manner where you're just creating a lot of tokens. It can act as a win con in those type of builds. Additionally, we will have support for the Terror of the Peaks through a couple of means in this deck as well. Mainly the Blade of Selves and the Scourge of Valkis, Dragon Broodmother. You know, I'd say that the Blade of Selves is kind of a really more of a sexy type of thing you can do with the Terror of the Peaks, because you're just basically creating copies of it and having that kind of interesting interaction where you're seeing the dragons see themselves and they deal combat damage in you know, a more pronounced way, right? They kind of stacking on top of each other, and you get to, like, you know, assign damage that way and kind of take advantage of more Terror of the Peaks all of a sudden. So that's a very cool way to go about Terror. Goldspan Dragon is just one of those really nice value cards. It's just a very nice slot in, and it's something you're never going to be sad about casting. You know, you're going to get that treasure value. You're going to get some damage in the air, and you're going to be able to, like, you know, get into your bigger spells with it. So just another nice choice here overall. So those are like my kind of like my, you know, big dragons, right? Here's my other ones that, like, they require a little deal of support, but they are obviously exceptional as well. So this Savage Ventmaw is my, like, tier 1 list. It enables the, like, Hellkite Charger very well. So this is that interaction where Savage Ventmaw can add 6, and then you can pay into most of this ability. You'll be 1 short, so it doesn't, like, have like a matching criteria. Like Savage Ventmaw doesn't make 7 mana, so you might not be able to go infinite combats with these 2. But I mean, if you have like kind of a treasure, if you have a mana like kind of on board that's already pre-existing, then basically when this has, if you have the 1 extra and then this, then you can kind of start that train going. So I mean, at least get a couple combat steps, like if you had, like, you know, 3 mana available, and if you had, like, ability to create more mana as those steps go, if you could pay into the first, like through treasures, then you could definitely go infinite here, and win the game with your flyers. So there is that, and that's what's really amazing about these dragons, is that they have so many combo kills. This one is a very special one, right? Though it's kind of a definitive win, right? Just the kind of a way to definitively win. So there's the Hellkite Charger and the Savage Ventmaw. Okay, and now here's the Dragonlord Atarka, and I really like this body, like an 8/8 here for the 7 mana. I like that it has flying and trample. It's very, very threatening, and it has a nice enter the battlefield trigger. And you don't have to be nice to your opponents; just take out their stuff. You know, take out their little mana dorks. You know, whatever. Don't be friendly. That sometimes, but decks can snowball. So just take care of the stuff. Take care of the board, and you're going to have a great 8/8. It's going to do its job, you know? Here's the Scourge of the Throne. I'd say it's mostly good on its own, so I kind of put it in this tier 2 slot. But it still doesn't have haste, right? So it does need a little bit of support, but just the effect that you can attack to an opponent with the most life and have an additional combat step, just 1 a turn. You're limited to 1 a turn, but if you meet that criteria and you can attack attack a player with the most life or tie for the most life and tap all attacking creatures. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So I really like this card a lot. And then Atarka, like, what an amazing like card. This thing can really put the pressure on the opponents, and they really have to figure out ways of removing it. I've seen in some circumstances where someone will give up like a walking ballista, like they could basically let loose on the game, you know, and in order to like take this out, you know, it's like that threatening. So the thing about Atarka, though, I would say like the 4 toughness is like kind of like a bummer, you know, so you have to like kind of keep this protected. It's kind of a queen card where I would just like basically use this as a I'd be very weary about you know, losing my Atarka and maybe even swinging in with it if I had like other board options that could also attack in, because you wouldn't want this thing to get like bombasted by like some sort of flash or, you know, some sort of flash blocks. It's just, Atarka is just like one of those cards that you give double strike to all your dragons, and you know, that's a very powerful effect in that game. That's a win con in itself. So very threatening card with the Atarka, right? So that, I mean, all these dragons that I've like kind of talked about so far are just like really solid, right? There's also just, I failed to mention, this is also in my tier 1 list too, guys, is the Invasion of Tarkir, which flips, this is the one where you do damage based on the number of dragons in your hand to a target. You can reveal those dragons. It starts at 2. The more dragons you reveal, additional damage for each dragon. This is a battle too, so it will sit on the battlefield, and once you basically deal 5 points of damage to it and remove those counters, those battle counters, it will flip into the Defiant Thundermaw. Let's just read this amazing card. It's a 4/4 flying trample. Whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. You know, it'd be like, it's almost like I couldn't imagine, like, I was almost thinking like you could do like a Blade of Cells on this or something, but of course it's through attacks, so that's unfortunate. But still like, this card is just completely whacked out, and I feel it's just kind of like a really just kind of amazing card that when more dragons you have attacking, just the more ping damage you can do to things, and really kind of suffocate the opponents, and you know, kind of it just has synergy with all the dragons. You know, you're just getting value from attacking with them, and you know, doing the damage selectively. It's just very good. So, and it's a removal spell, so definitely up there, right? Okay, so far so good. Here is like just kind of, these are cards that just kind of enable themselves, like they're just kind of glued to the deck. I wouldn't say like they're just overly impressive by themselves, but when you put them together, I feel like they start doing some crazy things. So for instance, like a Lathless, where it's just a nice 6/6 flyer to start, which is just a nice creature in general. And then whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. So it enables the creation of more dragons if we play more castable dragons, such as like a Scourge of Valkus. And the Scourge of Valkus is the one that's going to see the total dragons that we have on the battlefield as dragons come in, and deal damage to a target based on the amount of dragons that we control. So, I mean, we have like, you know, three dragons out and play another. I mean, we have 4 total dragons. That's 4 damage to a target. And it doesn't have to be non-token or token. So, for instance, if we have this Dragon Broodmother, you know, creating tokens on every upkeep, you know, and then you're doing some damage, you know, you're doing some serious stuff, right? So that's some fun Gruul Dragon stuff. So overall, these are just very solid dragons, you know. Then I have like a nice tech dragon here. I love like the Obsidian Charmaw, and especially if this is like the Summer of Eldrazi, like let's take out their Ugin's Labyrinth, let's take out their Ancient Tombs, let's be a nasty guy, and really take out those non-basic lands they have. And you know, while we're at it, why don't we just go ahead and slap a Blade of Cells on this in an early sequence, and with like our Meria deck, you know, generating that lot of mana that we can just blow into this kind of equip cost. and then and then start taking out all our opponents' non-basic lands. Yeah, and be the number one villain. Yeah, that's that's what I've been told, right? Be the number one villain. So there's that. That's a cool one. These are the dragons that are good, but I would say that they would probably make the cut, but they just need an abundance of support. They really do. They need haste. They require mana reductions to make them worth it, and we'll get into that, how we're going to accomplish that in our what I suggest. But a card like Steel Hellkite, you want this thing to be getting value like very fast. Like it's kind of like a Balefire Dragon. I'd say it's a little bit weaker than a Balefire Dragon. This one is one where you want to have it come hasted down. You want to attack in, hopefully have some mana available to pay into this so they can remove certain permanents of a certain mana value. It doesn't take out all the permanents that are under and meeting that value. It basically, you pick a number, like for instance, X is 3 for your opponent, and it will take out the permanents with 3 mana that have 3 mana correlated to that, not 3 and below, just the 3. So that's a very interesting card, and how it's read. There is misplays with this card, and it would be, to the eye, you would be thinking it would be lower, but it's basically each non-land permanent with mana value X, not X or less. Okay, so there's that. Additionally, Ancient Copper Dragon. This is a very pricey card, but again, this card needs like an abundance of support. It needs haste enablers. It needs cards like Doors of Durin to kind of like have it just kind of coming in and attacking. Otherwise, it's just kind of sitting there, and just like like, hello, like I'm waiting, I'm waiting to get like value here, and it can get removed, and then there's just a 6/5 that wasted a turn. Similarly, like, at least this one has haste. However, it's dependent on your opponent having artifacts. Like if someone just Vandal Blasted the table, this card is like completely useless. So there's the Cavernhorn Dragon, where it creates X treasures once it deals the combat damage, and you create token for each artifact that player controls. Here's the Ancient Bronze Dragon. This one's a nasty guy, and it's just it needs a lot of help though. It needs like haste. We need to get this thing rolling in, and then that's why it's so important. I'll show you the haste package that I have for my Meria deck, but it really requires like all that support. If it doesn't have that support, it's really not worth it. You'd probably be better off playing like different spells like Cityscape Leveler and such, This one is like the special card that it's worth it if you put in all the things that it needs. It needs cards like Urza's Incubator. It needs cards like Herald's Horn. It needs cards like Goblin Anarchomancer, our Emerald Medallions, Ruby Medallions. We have all those things, so we can play Uvar Hellkite. It's an 8-mana dragon, and it's amazing if you can get this thing to stick at a reasonable rate as flying. Whenever a dragon you control attacks, create a 6/6 red dragon creature token with flying. Oof, that's a lot of dragons, guys. That is a lot. And if you guys are doing like your extra combat steps, and it can get real nasty real quick. So that's why we just need to have like a lot of support. So I put those on a lower tier, like needing a lot of help. So here is my recommendations for like if you want to get into those particular cards, like an Uvar Hellkite. A card like Dragon Tempest is going to be like your kind of primary way of giving haste to those things, letting them come down and get value, right? So whenever a creature with flying enters the battlefield under your control, it gains haste until end of turn. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage to a target creature or player, where X is the number of dragons you control. So very similar to the Scourge of Valkus, where not only is it going to give haste to all of our dragon creatures, which is just our flying dragons, which is just amazing. Additionally, it's going to have that like Scourge of Valkus effect, where it's just going to reward us for playing the dragons that we're already going to play anyways. It's like a double whammy. It's the ultimate, right? And it's only 2 mana. It is the ultimate tribal card. And then, of course, we have like our nice suite of artifact cards that just provide some very nice haste and protection. and at a reasonable rate. So like a lightning greaves. Haste and Shroud, equip 0. Ring of Alcus, 2 mana, creep creature has haste. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1 counter on equip creature if it's red. Equip costs 1. Lava Spur Boots, this is the new one from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Equip creature gets 1/0 and has haste and ward 1. Equip 1. That ward 1 can make a difference, and you get haste and a 1/0 buff. Nice. Here's the Swiftfoot Boots. All these are just our classic haste enablers. Equip creature has hexproof and haste. Equip 1. Perfect. Additionally, have our Rabbit Battery. Haste. Equip creature gets 1/1, has haste. Amazing. These are just amazing cards that provide haste to the creatures, to the tribe. We need them to be ready. We need them to go. We need to have them come down and start attacking in and getting the value, or they're just sitting ducks. So, well, sure, let's put in 2 Rabbit Batteries. Why not? And here's our kind of mana reducers here, like a Herald's Horn. It will reduce the cost of like our dragons by naming dragon, and then we can reveal a card from during our upkeep. Reveal the top card of our library, or we just get to look at it. We don't have to reveal it. If it's creature card of the chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. And this is the incubator, which is just what a boon for the deck. Like, I think you could probably play this in most of the versions. I just think this is perfectly set up for Meria, though. I think she's like the ultimate dragon commander, because she just gets value. She basically turns all these artifacts into a cultivates, where you're just like basically playing these lands or these artifacts and they become like lands. It's just outrageous. And these lands can also pay for themselves, you know? They can just pay for their equip costs. It's just absolutely crazy stuff. So yeah, like it's just really amazing. So I love it. I think it's my favorite way of going about this, and I'm still practicing other ones, of course, but this is kind of just like the way that I'm going about it right now. Let's go over some honorable mentions, because I definitely don't want to leave out any dragons that maybe people might enjoy, and you know, you might also have opinions about that, and I love that, because you know, I play this deck a little bit, and I've interchanged these dragons, but you know, you might have strong feelings, and please let me know. I also kind of want to know where you, content creators you guys tune into, and which ones you enjoy the most. I'd say, like, obviously I started watching Magic through Cobra Go Blue. Joined his Discord. It was very rewarding, and I still frequent it very much. You know, of course, like I would say, like, I like the pack openings too, like Pack Opening Addict. I love those guys, like MTG North. Yeah, all of the pack opening channels are very, very good. Is there anything else that I like? Ash Lizzle a lot. I think she's fantastic. You know, I watch all of them. I watch a lot of Legend, but yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. I mean, I like them all, really. I love Magic the Gathering content. So there's that. So yeah, some of the honorable mentions, like Skyline Despot. This guy's kind of cool. I mean, it's cool that like you get value from the Monarch, getting that card. And then if you're still the Monarch, as it comes back around, you create a 5/5 dragon creature. So pretty interesting card overall. Hellkite Tyrant, I don't know if I've like tested this card enough. And I feel like it's one of those ones that like falls into a lot of support. I could see myself like probably interchanging like, I don't know, like it'd really be hard, because there's some cards that like I haven't seen enough of, like a Steel Hellkite. I'm not sure if that's like, maybe even a Cavern Horde Dragon. I'd prefer like something like a Hellkite Tyrant over that. It's really hard to say, but what do you guys think about this card? You know, it's a very popular card. It's kind of have prominence, like, so I like the fact, I think like it needs a lot of assistance, right? Mostly these cards, like, and it needs opponent to have artifacts too to steal. I mean, that's kind of like you're meeting a couple criteria, right? So overall, I think that's very interesting. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 more artifacts, you win the game. I'll probably have to put this deck, I couldn't imagine me like I guess I would probably like prefer mana production for this particular build. So I'd probably go for like Cavern Horde Dragon over like a Steel Hellkite. So maybe that's kind of like the way I want to go about that. Here's Gadrak. Like I don't have anything too bad to say about this. I know people don't really like this card very much. I've encountered a lot of people, and I've like maybe it's just maybe not the most value out of a card, but I like that it can like enable like a Great Henge or like a Skull Spore Nexus like earlier in the game. I think that's kind of an interesting concept about it. And I feel like the fact that if you're starting to kill stuff while you're attacking with your dragons, and if they're non-tokens, you're generating treasures, I think that's kind of interesting too. So overall, I think Gadrak's pretty interesting overall. Here's Doors of Durin, and this is just like another, I think it's just a card that needs to be mentioned in this because it just turns on all our real big dragon creatures, whether they have enter the battlefield triggers. You'll miss out on those attack triggers, but like the active attacking, like when this creature attacks, but when you deal combat damage, that's when you get the value out of the Doors of Durin. Like if you connect with a cavern, if you connect with a copper dragon or an ancient bronze dragon, once you deal that combat damage, or even a balefire dragon, this thing is like a missile, right? Where you're just hopefully ready to reveal that creature card upon attacking and revealing it, and it'll just go right in. So that's why we really love the Doors of Durin. And then like just kind of just I probably just had these are just easy slot-ins for the deck. Because we're going so tall, I don't know if Embercleave fits, but I think you should have like a kind of a double striker, like a Lizard Blades. I think is good. I think it's kind of like a good call in general, just so you can get more of those combat damage triggers. And because I'm playing Meria, I think this is my number one Meria card red at the moment. Probably up there with Mox Opal, but Paradise Mantle is a 0-drop. It was just something else altogether. So overall, I think like we're pretty much getting along here, and that was kind of like my kind of spiel into all these sweet dragons. So we just kind of take a look at all these guys and just look at the wonder of this archetype. It's one that I just kind of revisit all the time because I'm always building decks, always trying new things, kind of interchanging cards. But this is always something that will stick. I always just thought this was amazing, and I still do. I think this is amazing kind of action here that you get with these cards. So I really am pleased with the Dragon Tribe, and I'm glad it is strong. It's very, very fitting, right? It should be fitting for a game like this that the Dragon should be good. All right, so that's about it, guys. I hope you'll have a wonderful day. Goodbye.